The Prime Minister has committed his government to spending at least $120 million to ask a question pollsters have already answered, whether Australians want same-sex marriage to be legal. Malcolm Turnbull is going to send the nation to a voluntary postal vote after the Senate almost certainly rejects his second attempt for a plebiscite. Polls have consistently found that about 2/3 of Australians support gay marriage, but internal coalition politics means that even that isn't enough for the Turnbull government to let the Parliament decide the issue by a conscience vote. Tonight, Liberal Senator Dean Smith, one of the leaders of the same-sex marriage push inside the government, tells 7:30 he's worried the postal plebiscite will inevitably attract questions about its legitimacy. Here's political correspondent Andrew Probyn.
This is people's future and people's happiness.
We believe that this is something that ought not to go to a plebiscite.
Let's have a vote in the Parliament. Let's get this done.
Let's just get on and do it. It's time for marriage equality.
The hearts in the grass were to remind politicians that real people are affected by the parliamentary pantomime on same-sex marriage.
Strong leaders carry out their promises. Weak leaders break them. I'm a strong leader.
With those words, the Prime Minister claimed virtue in sticking with a plebiscite that was never his favoured option.
Fundamental to political leadership is integrity and trust. We all know what happens to governments that break their promises. We all remember Julia Gillard's "There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead," and how she broke that promise and what followed.
The government should just do its job and have a free vote on marriage equality. We can make it a reality.
Easy said, but when you're a Prime Minister holding a one-seat majority and facing significant internal hostility to Parliament even considering the same-sex marriage issue, the path is fraught. We
have sought to have a compulsory attendance plebiscite. The only reason it has not been held is because of Bill Shorten's opposition.
So here's where we're at. The PM's Plan A, costing $170 million, would be to have a compulsory plebiscite on November 25. With this plan likely doomed, Plan B is to have a non-compulsory postal plebiscite. This would cost up to $120 million, with ballot papers sent out on September 12 to be returned by November 7. Should the postal plebiscite return a majority yes vote, Parliament would vote on the matter before the end of the year.
No, there's nothing they can offer me. No. You're not going to trade on something like this. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Senate crossbench is already making plain its view on the plebiscite, or Plan A.
This ought to be decided by a free vote of the Parliament, by a conscience vote of the Parliament.
We know that the plebiscite's a dead end. We know that it's going to get knocked back by the Senate again, and for good reasons.
So it's down to Plan B, the postal plebiscite, to be conducted by the Bureau of Statistics, the same agency responsible for the census bungle.
It's August 9, so get online.
It's slightly less expensive than Plan A, but its value is much more dubious, relying on a form of communication the younger generation spurn.
Prime Minister, your own office has brought in this device into this press conference. It's called a Me Vote. Apparently it live streams to Facebook.
Yes.
The Facebook community...
Are you offended by that? Is this you're from the ABC? Are you offended by that? Does the internet threaten you?
The Facebook generation...
Yes.
Are classically and very typically people who've moved on in the debate. They might not have ever...
I think they're all looking forward to having their say.
What do you say to the Facebook generation who say, how do
have your say?
Should we vote?
Have your say. I'm encouraging them to have their say.
Malcolm Turnbull's plan is to sort this out by the time Parliament rises for the year in December, if not earlier. If the Prime Minister starts 2018, a possible election year, with the rainbow serpent still squeezing the life out of his government, he may as well pack his bags. Mr Turnbull came to power promoting innovation and exciting times. Ironic, then, that he requires the Facebook generation to acquaint itself with a pen and the postman to allow his government to catch up with the times. And here's the thing. only a yes vote will see this divisive debate end, assuming Parliament respects the outcome.
The postal plebiscite, in my argument, has had many, many flaws, not least the issue of legitimacy.
Dean Smith, one of 7 Liberals who pushed for a free vote on same-sex marriage, says the prospect of low voter turnout or a slim difference between the yes and no vote is not his only concern. Well, what happens if there is a legal challenge which delays or stops the postal plebiscite? Would you then hope to bring on a vote?
That's a very real issue. Now, I don't know the details of the legal arguments for and against, but my impression is the government thinks it's got a very, very strong case. I hope that that issue does not arise, but if the postal plebiscite is not successful, is struck down in the High Court, I think, unfortunately, we come back and revisit the issue all over again.
Do you worry that some of the arguments against gay marriage will see the debate turn ugly?
Well, this is a burden that every parliamentarian must shoulder. It's a burden the government, the Prime Minister must shoulder.
Must this issue be resolved by year's end?
Most definitely. If we are to look at what's happened over the last few weeks, I would characterise it as progress. We have got much greater clarity about how we're going to get a parliamentary free vote. We must have a parliamentary free vote by the end of this year.
Remember those walls I built? Well, baby, they're tumbling down.
Is it your hope that we'll see same-sex marriages by the end of the year?
I hope not for myself, but I hope for lots of other gay and lesbian Australians, but importantly for their friends, for their families, for the community. I hope that people can embark upon Christmas, embark upon the summer holiday, getting married if that's what they want to choose, same-sex couples being brought closer into their own families, enjoying the strength of their relationships and having those afforded the same sort of dignity that other relationships are afforded in our country.